into our neighborhoods, more specifically Tropical Ridge, proportionally to those businesses surrounding. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. As the liaison to the CRA and past vice chair, absolutely. And let me tell you, that's why we're running for re-election, because most of these candidates up here have never worked with the CRA or don't even know what the CRA is doing. Right now we are actually focusing on Dixie Highway. We just spent $25,000. We're bringing a company in that is looking at exactly what Dixie Highway has to offer. We're working with DOT, the mayor is working with the MPO, and working on bringing investment into Dixie Highway.
We're going to start with Brian Hartman and go that way. Question number 9. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer. Oh, question 10. I'm off my game tonight. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer this two-part. The question looks so familiar to the last question. We'll have 1 minute to answer this two-part question. Did you live in Lake Worth before the merger with PBSO, Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office? Yes or no? And under what circumstances would you consider replacing PBSO with a newly formed Lake Worth Police Department?
I did not live in Lake Worth before the merger. I've heard stories, but I haven't lived here. I would like to see more transparency with the police department, the sheriff's department. I know that we give them $1.2 million a month, and we don't see any kind of reports back. So I would need to see some kind of reports and know what they're doing before I can make a decision.
Thank you. Scott Maxwell.
Yes, I did live here prior to the PBSO merger, and I will tell you that under no circumstances will I ever allow the PBSO to leave this city. I consider PBSO to be one of the premier law enforcement agencies in this country. They have thousands of employees across an area of land that is greater in size than 2 or 3 of our states here in the U.S. And every large organization has good people, they have bad people. They do good things, they do poor things. The Sheriff's Office is constantly looking to upgrade and improve their tactics and their communication with the community. And I cannot think of any better way to protect our citizens and our neighborhoods than keeping PBSO here. And again, I want to reiterate, under no circumstances, under any conditions, will PBSO ever leave as long as I'm a member of this commission. Thank you.
I too lived here before the PBSO merger, and I support PBSO 150%. And again, I want to share with you that the candidates up here running against the mayor, vice mayor, and myself are not educated on the issues, because PBSO is very transparent. They put out documentation for everyone to see. Also, the CRA has a full budget that they print out, and it's public every year. So to make statements that PBSO is not transparent, or the CRA is not transparent, or the city is not transparent, it is there for anyone to see at any time.
No, I did not live here. I do support PBSO at this time. Unfortunately, I did have a couple break-ins in my property, and it's unfortunate. We have crime all over this city. In speaking with a couple of the officers, I would think that we could build more task forces and address certain problems in certain areas and address those and work hand in hand with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary Antio.
Yes, I lived here before PBSO took over. I was chairman of the Civil Service Board when the city police was here, and I had no problem with them. Our area, when we call them, they come fairly quickly. And they'd always take people on patrol with them. If it was important, show them how they operated. If it was feasible, I'd like to see our own city back, city police, but we have to put up with the majority and see what they want to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Diane Shaw. This is 1 minute.
Well, I come from a sheriff's office background, so I guess I don't have to tell anyone here how I feel about PBSO. However, when I moved, PBSO was already here. I have seen a gradual deterioration in service. And to brag about that, I would be ashamed, given what our streets look like today. Here's how it is. They take a monthly and weekly meeting. That's a passive way of doing it. If I become mayor, first thing I'm going to do is go on patrol. I want to see what our deputies are dealing with on the street, and I certainly know what we need to do in our neighborhood. Something's got to be done. Anybody that walks in the street today, any day, knows that there is a big problem somewhere. So to sit up here and brag, Mr. Amoroso, I don't think I'd be doing that.
I support PBSO 1,000,000%. I was here when the transformation happened. To just give my opponent some facts. Since PBSO started here, murders are down in the city 74%. Robberies down 47%. Vehicle thefts down 55%. Burglaries down 23%. And as for the gang activity that used to plague our streets, worse than the prostitution we still have to deal with, let's just say they were eradicated within 2.5 to 3 years. PBSO has responded to almost 90,000 phone calls. Okay, they're doing their job. Things are tough. We have to be more creative in problem solving. We can't just point the finger. We have to come up with solutions.
Okay, 30-second rebuttal.
Well, considering they just now made the Cultural Plaza and the downtown area a park, shows before the election they recognize they have a problem. They've been in office all these years. Why are they doing this now? Because we have a big problem. And everybody in the city knows it. You can spout all the statistics you want, walk out in our streets. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one more rebuttal.
Creating safe places within our city are most important when we see what happens. A lot of things happen. A lot of the homeless situation that we have right now, we know that there are people that we have a heart out for that have dementia, PTSD, all kinds of different ailments. And then we have the aggressive panhandlers, in which we create an aggressive panhandling law to enforce in the city. The reason why we're enforcing these is because we want to make sure that our children are safe in our park spaces and in our plaza, and we've taken the necessary action to legally do it.
Thank you. You might as well stay up there, Ms. Drill. We're going to start with you. We're going to go to Ms. Jacques and then back down the other side of this question. So question number 11. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer this question. And it says on the card, please pay attention to the question, so I will not have to repeat it excessively. I'm not sure why it says that. Okay, there's a preamble, and then there's going to be a question. Okay. Although there exists considerable disagreement among reasonable people regarding the profitability of the beach and casino complex, there is no disagreement regarding the consistent financial loss suffered by the pool. In what has become a catch-22 scenario, revenues at the pool might be stabilized with increased hours and more days of operation, but to do so would substantially increase already lopsided expenses. So question number 11 is, based on that fact pattern and the facts that are going on at the beach, would you propose or support a public-private partnership, in essence, outsourcing the pool operations to keep it as a highly valued amenity public, maintaining complete and total public access?
Just the pool you're talking about.
Just the pool.
Okay. First of all, everyone needs to know that I'm one of the ones who opened the pool. It was closed under former administration, and I opened the pool because I actually used the pool. I love the pool, and I think it's an asset to our community. Again, a lot of people say amenities like parks and pools don't have to make money. They do have to support themselves. You have to pay your bills every day, don't you? You have to pay your mortgage payment. We have to be able to pay for those types of things. Public-private partnerships is so funny. I went to the Mayor's Council, went to the National League of Cities, and every single event was about the success of different cities around the United States of America. Everyone getting up and speaking about how a public-private partnership helped them to achieve goals that they couldn't afford as a city. We have a public-private partnership with Mulligan's. We have a public-private partnership with the pizza place. We have a public-private partnership with Benny's. We have a public-private partnership with a lot of things. They pay money to be there, and they're providing a resource for us, providing food, providing t-shirts, providing amenities. So we have to start looking seriously and stop the propaganda.
Thank you.
Public-private partnerships on the beach. I think the taxpayers, the people who have invested in this city, do not want that sort of thing. And we don't have to privatize it. Let's just manage better. Let's talk about Benny's. Do you realize that Benny's keeps all the revenues from the pier? And guess who pays for the maintenance? Do we want more partnerships like that? I don't think so. What we need to do is rein in all this nonsense and start putting our management hat on. Mr. Amoroso talked about the candidates that were naive. Well, one thing I'm not naive about is management. We don't need to privatize anything. We need to make fiscally responsible decisions. Thank you.
Gary and Peter.
Since I moved here in 1979, all I've heard about is the beach, beach, beach. And then all I've heard about is we do not want public-private partnerships. The people down here at the beach, I don't consider public-private partners, I consider them renters. And if we can manage that beach like we should, advertise the pool around the country. I thought that's what the internet was for, so we could get out on social media, whatever it's called, and invite people back. I don't know the right words. But no, I'm not for public-private partnership on any part of the beach.
Thank you. Frank McEnroe.
Well, we know that the beach complex is profitable, and the pool may be losing money, but it's also one of those recreations that make Lake Worth unique, and I think we need to keep it very public and keep it 100% public. I don't think many people want to see it as a private club. I think we can generate income through master's program and other swim events. There are other recreation departments out there, certainly like the golf course. I believe there was $1.8 million that was forgiven recently, so I'm a little more concerned with those situations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's talk about management on the beach. When we came on as elected officials, we inherited a beach project that didn't even include a pool. I went up there and I said, you're going to open a brand new beach complex. You need to at least put a coat of paint on the edge of the pool and some landscape. They took the sidewalk out and the entire side of the wall on the pool fell off. This was never included in the management program. We are fixing the problems. As far as the pool loses about $200,000 a year. That is money that we are subsidizing. So it needs to at least break even. And as far as management, that's what we're trying to do. We are on the internet. We are all over social media. And if you knew that, if you were on social media, you would actually know that. But we are moving the project forward and it needs to pay for itself. Right now, what pays for that beach complex is the parking. We took in $1.6 million in parking revenue last year and it had to pay for the building.
Thank you. Comment.
Believe it or not, I'd like you to repeat the question. only the question.
Would you propose or support a public-private partnership, in essence, outsourcing the pool operations to keep it as a highly valued amenity and public, maintaining complete and total public access?
Okay, I think I understand the question. First of all, let's understand the facts about the pool. As Commissioner Amoroso said, we lose hundreds of thousands of dollars on that pool every year. I'm quite sure many years ago that pool was a very profitable endeavor, but times have changed. There are many more home swimming pools than there were 30 years ago, 40 years ago. And the fact is that there are no public swimming pools in Palm Beach County that make profit, not one of them. We have roughly 22 people a day, 22 people per day that utilize the pool. There's no way that we're ever going to be able to generate enough traffic under these market conditions to bring enough revenue into that beach to pay for itself. So let's talk about semantics. Are you asking me if would I rent the pool out to somebody? Absolutely. But then again, that's the same thing as a public-private partnership. So if the answer is, or the question is, do I support a public-private partnership? I'll say yes, because I believe a public-private partnership is nothing more than a rental agreement of which we maintain complete, total control.
Thank you. Thank you. Reinhardt.
I do not support a public-private partnership at the beach. It's funny that the commission members up here are bragging about being the ones who open the pool and then talking about how much money the pool loses every year. And if the pool is losing that much money, what makes us think that a private corporation could take it over and all of a sudden be making money? And if we do think that, why can't we just do the same thing? Thank you.
You got it. Rebuttal. 30 seconds.
Thank you very much. I'd like to respond to the last comment. The difference between a private company coming in and opening the pool and operating is it's their money. They have to pay us every month, regardless of how much business they do. We will get our money regardless of how successful the marketing plan is or how many people come into that pool, versus the current situation that provides that we pay all the losses regardless of what happens to the pool. So yes, a company will pay all the expenses, they'll pay the rent, and we will be profitable under that scenario.
You might as well keep standing. Next question starts with you, Scott Maxwell. It goes to Andy Amoroso, and then back down to this end and out. After hitting Mr. McElwain on the end this time. Question 12. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer this question. 12. How do you propose to fund critically needed improvements to unpaved roads, broken or non-existent sidewalks, and the lack of adequate fire hydrant coverage in our city?
Roads, potholes, and fire hydrants?
Yeah, sidewalks, hydrants, improvements.
Thank you. As you all know, we recently had a bond referendum, and we asked the people of Lake Worth to vote for up to $63 million to completely redo our streets, to completely redo our sidewalks, to completely redo our fire hydrants. That initiative lost by 24 votes. And it lost because of a lot of misinformation out there about what the cost to the average citizen in Lake Worth would be. And that cost was around $80 per home. So now that the people have spoken, we're back to where we were on day one, and that is we have roughly $100,000 or so in fixed potholes. However, in recent years, we have channeled CDBG funding that was backlogged and not spent by the previous administration to start rebuilding some of our roads and our sidewalks. And our water department has gone through this year with some CDB funds to put new fire hydrants in throughout the city. It's, a Band-Aid, if you will, on the bigger situation, but right now those are the only things we can do until the community comes together and realizes what we all need to do together, and that is to...
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
Andy Amoroso.
We are moving forward, unfortunately not fast enough. We have gotten millions of dollars in grants to subsidize infrastructure, and we're moving forward. Vice Mayor mentioned, and I mentioned earlier, CDGB funds, community block grants. We get about $250,000 a year for that, so it's just a piecemeal. But I fought in Tallahassee and Washington to keep those funds because they were going to do away with those funds. And we traveled to Tallahassee and Washington and lobbied on your behalf and told them how important it was to the city of Lake Worth, so we could do it in pieces. Unfortunately, it's not enough. We need to continue to lobby Tallahassee and Washington. I sit on the board for Palm Beach County League of Cities, and we're working on some other creative ideas that would bring funding to each municipality that needs it the most. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank McElwain.
Agreed. The CDBG is pretty limited in the funds that they can do to provide for infrastructure here. I think some other things we need to think about are advocacy groups, whether it's cycling or other transportation groups that can help out and aid us in these endeavors improving the infrastructure. I also see quite a bit of money going out to the POC, where a lot of that land is not owned by us, and so we're helping private citizens. I was not here for the bond vote. I understand there was a significant amount of confusion as to what things were going to be, and maybe it wasn't spelled out, but maybe that's something we bring to the people again. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary Anthony.
Well, I voted against the bond because there was so many questions on where the 63 million was going to go. We understood it was not all going to go to the streets, it was going to go to the Park of Commerce, there was going to be some given to every quadrant in the city, and it wasn't the price of the $80 or $75 per house. I think the citizens would have paid that if we knew that it was all going to the streets, but we didn't know.
Thank you. Diane Shaw.
Okay, well, I happen to know to fix the roads in Lake Worth, we're looking at $20 million. So how does $250,000 a year get that job done? I have no idea. But I can tell you one thing I do know. I would not be spending $11 to $15 million for that part of commerce. If we start addressing our streets, our neighborhoods, make crime go away as best we can, and make the neighborhoods inviting again, we'll have plenty of business that'll come to Lake Worth. We only need to look to Delray Beach to see how it's done.
Everything goes hand in hand. You think about a 32% poverty rate in the city. Our people need jobs, okay? The Park of Commerce can bring in 4,800 jobs to people who really need it here in the city. But in the meantime, for 100 years, nobody thought about budgeting for infrastructure. It was me who came to a visioning session here in 2011 that said, forget your big glossy projects that all you want to do, commissioners. It's about putting it into the streets, the sidewalks, the roads, the pathways to school. I focused on those meat and potato items since I got here. I will tell you that the Park of Commerce, yeah, it's only part of it. The Park of Commerce is a road. We don't own that land, and we're not developing anything out there other than putting the road in that can bring those jobs in. As for our streets, capital improvement projects, new budgets for pipes and water and sewer. It's all going to happen through capital improvement projects and grants. We're up for an EDA grant of $1.4 million, and I'm going back to the governor again this year for $5 million.
I wasn't here when the bond issue was on the ballot, but everything I've read about it seemed really confusing. And that keeps with the pattern of not providing enough information for the public so they can make an informed vote. I think if it was done again, but more information was provided and people weren't as confused, it could pass. I think we can, if we put bike lanes in roads, we could get grant money from cycling places. There are other grants to get, as other people here have said. And as far as the Park of Commerce goes, if it's going to bring jobs here, what kind of jobs is it going to bring? What kind of companies are going to move in there? Is it jobs that are going to go to the people in Lake Worth, or is it jobs that are going to go to people outside of Lake Worth and not help us at all? Thank you.
First off, from Diane Shaw, this time go to Mr. Antiu, and then follow up from the other end, and then with Montreal. Question number 13. We're getting there. There's only one more after that. I only got one more back here. Each candidate will have 30 seconds to answer this question. Okay, there's another preamble to this one. Next month, we'll bring over 100,000 visitors to our city to celebrate the annual Street Painting Festival. Again this year, the streets our guests will have to use as a result of street closings are riddled with potholes. The question is, what would you say to our visiting guests to explain why?
That's a really great question, isn't it? What do you tell visitors that come to our city? In fact, my sons are artists. One of them even painted in the Street Painting Festival. That was one of the things that I think people come here for every year. There is no good reason. As far as the bond issue that didn't pass, there was a lot of money that nobody could figure out where it was going to go. I myself abstained from the vote. If we can spell things out better, I think the people of Lake Worth will step up and make the sacrifice. We want the streets fixed, and unfortunately, there is no good reason.
Thank you.
I think there's only one thing we can tell people. Nothing's been maintained in this town for the last 40 years. We can't exaggerate and say we missed it. It's just things haven't been taken care of. That's all.
Thank you.
Yes, the Street Painting Festival is, again, one of those things that makes this city very unique. The problem is our two best streets, we're going to be painting all over them. You know, I think one of the things we need to look for is just outside money on this. Dixie and federal, again, are controlled by outside resources, so it's going to be very difficult for Lakewood to help those areas.
Thank you. Andy Amoroso.
I just want to remind people that 21 years, 22 years, I can't remember now, I actually sat in somebody's living room and helped create the Street Painting Festival. I was one of the 5 volunteers that created that. I'm very sad that we can't fix our potholes, that we can't fix our infrastructure. It's a much larger picture. I can assure you that staff will go out and do whatever they can to fill potholes before these people come to our beautiful city for the Street Painting Festival. But it's just a patch. We need a larger fix, and we're working on it.
Thank you.
What can you tell the folks that come into our town? The truth. You need to tell them the truth. Explain the truth, and explain to them what measures we've taken recently and what we're going to do in the future to fix it. But while at the same time pointing out the bright spots we have in the city, the wonderful things that Lake Worth has to offer them. And I will tell you, as a volunteer and riding that shuttle bus for the last several years of folks coming to the Street Painting Festival, people are very, very impressed with the many amenities and the many things they see when they come to downtown Lake Worth. So if we can come together on the streets, we've got a home run for South Florida. Thank you.
Thank you. Ryan Hartman.
If a visitor to our city asked me that question, I would explain to them the bond issue, and I would tell them that the previous city commissions have neglected our streets. I'm not just talking about this city commission. I would also point out all the great things that we do have, like all the streets that are easy to get around, the beach, the great downtown area, things like that. And a couple of potholes shouldn't deter anybody from living here to deter me.
I'd like you to repeat the question, because I thought I heard something in the beginning.
Well, it's next month we'll bring 100,000 visitors for our city to celebrate the annual Street Painting Festival. Again this year, the streets our guests will have to use as a result of street closings are riddled with potholes. What would you say to our visiting guests to explain why?
I would have to say that the city has finally created a plan to move the city forward and actually fix the streets. Can you believe that until we got here in 2011, that nobody actually did a completely detailed study of the pipes, the sewer, the streets, the condition of the roadways, ever? Until 2011. Do you realize that we never had GIS systems in place? None of these things happened until we got here, this current commission, and the two gentlemen sitting with me on the stage here. We have more resources and amenities and more chutzpah than any other city in the city.
Thank you very much. Okay. We're going to start this question 14 with Andy Amoroso, go to Frank McAlone, and then come back down through, finishing Scott Maxwell. Last question, folks. So, candidates will have 1 minute to answer the preamble here. The NAPC has embarked on a long-term mission to improve literacy